very back, sir. If you can stand and raise your right hand, please.
You solemnly swear the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please be seated. State your full name, spelling first and last. Please speak into the microphone.
Yes, Theodore Edgecomb. That's first name Theodore. Last name is Edgecomb, as in boy.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Edgecomb.
Good morning.
Now, I just want to get a couple things out the way. Mr. Edgecomb, have you ever been convicted of a crime before?
Yes.
And how many times?
3 to my knowledge, yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Edgecomb, how old are you?
32 years old.
And if you could tell the members of the jury about, just your family. Do you have any kids?
Yes, I have 5 children.
Okay. And if you could describe to the members of the jury just your family construct.
My children, they're my pride and joy. 2 sons, I have 3 daughters, and whom I love dearly. I have a special, unique bond with each one of them. I tell them everything. I don't try to keep anything from them. When I look at them, I see myself in them. They remind me of myself even at a younger age with, different things in which they do, their reactions to certain things, their humor, their mannerisms, even in how they look. At times, when I'm looking at them, it's like I'm looking in the mirror.
Mr. Edgecomb, are you engaged at all?
Yes.
And who are you engaged to?
Miss Ruby Mizell.
Okay. Now, Mr. Theodore Edgecomb, if you could explain to the members of the jury, where were you raised?
In Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay. And where did you reside on or about September 22nd of 2020?
During that time, I was in between places. At the time, though, that particular date, I was residing on Dowsman Street on the Lower East Side of Milwaukee.
Okay. Now, if you could tell the members of the jury about your education background.
Yes, I attended college. I have enough credits to, I need a few more credits in order to get obtain my bachelor's degree.
Okay. And what was your field of study?
Psychology.
And what interested you about psychology?
Just the study of human behavior. I'm a people person, and just with that, just wanting to understand individuals more, just to, get more acclimated with them, and just understanding people overall, their uniqueness, different abilities that they have, what makes us different, what makes us the same, and yeah.
Okay. Now, Mr. Edgecomb, were you employed on or about September 22nd of 2020?
I think majority of America wasn't employed at that time. The country was pretty much shut down, and I was at home pretty much, and just looking to, like everyone else, get unemployment due to the fact that I wasn't employed at that time.
Okay, what did you do prior to the COVID situation?
I worked for SPX Transformers Solution in Waukesha, and I was an electrical product assembler. So I built transformers for the in which they were shipped around the world.
Okay. Now, were you involved in any type of volunteer activities of any kind?
Yes.
If you could explain to the members of the jury, what kind of activities were you involved in?
Well, first off, one in which I took pride in, I was a T-ball coach for my daughter and her team. They were called the Zimbos, and this is in the Beckham-Stapleton League of Milwaukee. I took great pride in that. My daughter, she overexceeded in it. The team, they were great individuals, all of them unique. Yeah.
Okay. Were there any other activities outside of the T-ball league that you've done?
Yes, a few.
Okay. You want to tell the jury about those as well?
I assisted in basketball coaching too, in the league, and also too participated in mentoring, if you may. I have a nonprofit called RAP, Restoring Anointed Paths, in which I help youth just in life, just becoming of age from the age of 9 and up, just help them being better individuals in society, helping them even as far as training, if they have schoolwork, participating in different programs that will help enrich them. And a lot of these individuals come from impoverished situations. So, and that's why that was a part of why I studied psychology too, to also help individuals. And like I mentioned, these young men were in impoverished situations, the majority of them. So, and understanding their situations and, empathizing with them, that was a part of RAP and Restoring Anointed Paths.
Okay. Now, I want to transition a little bit, Mr. Edgecomb. I want to now talk about the summer of 2020.
Yes.
Do a couple things stand out to you about the summer of 2020?
Yes, a lot actually.
Okay. I want to first go into, do you recall experiencing any racial tensions that you experienced during that time frame?
During the summer of 2020?
Yes.
As far as for myself or just out in society?
Just generally in society.
Generally, yes. I know the George Floyd situation was pretty prevalent in society at that time. There were a lot of marches, protests, different things like that going on. And there was a lot of groups that were clashing against each other. And with that, it created a lot of divisiveness in the world, in which, a lot of people were harmed. A lot of people, it created a huge divisiveness in society, in America actually. It was different groups, like I said, that were going against each other. And this wasn't prevalent prior to this pandemic and, different issues as far as George Floyd that were going on. People were more brash and bold about what they were doing, and it was so out in the open. It was looking and seemingly like no one could pretty much stop this. It was like chaotic and madness.
Okay. And how did that make you feel? Did you ever attend or observe any of these protests or marches that you spoke of?
Yes, I actually attended a few, and when I did so, I brought my children. Upon them growing and becoming of age, I didn't keep too much from them. I taught them about history, Black history in particular, and how different individuals were treated. And also too, with that, I told them both sides of how people need to come together more and not be so divided, because we're more alike than we are different. And with me teaching them that, it gave them the understanding of, it showed them and gave them the knowledge and understanding of, not to hate, to love individuals, to be caring, to be kind, and to have empathy, show humility, and, just be a genuine person overall.
Now, did any of these racial tensions, affect you in any way, as far as your state of mind to any degree?
Yes. Racism it's a thing that affects me. follow Black history is like a favorite of mine, a favorite subject of mine rather. Even past history, you know, from slavery up until now, I've even suffered, you know, being discriminated against from individuals in society, from individuals in whom I was close with. And with that, I never understood the basis of it and why, you know, someone could literally hate another person a lot of the times without not even knowing them. And with this, it was, you know, just like I said, from past histories, you know, just understanding and knowing the dynamics of slavery and, you know, just that whole ordeal and, you know, just people, I just couldn't, I really, even now, I can't wrap my head around, you know, why anyone would be racist.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, I want to now kind of transition to the city of Milwaukee, if you will. How safe do you feel about traveling, or what is your views as far as the safety of this city?
It seems like each year, the crime rate has risen. Even in a particular area in which I was staying during I was in between as far as in 2020, that particular area was considered a safe area. But individuals whom I encountered and even rode bikes with, they were like saying that the crime rate had even risen in that area, and it was known to be a particularly good area. But a couple of these individuals, like I mentioned, and whom I even rode bikes with, they didn't even feel safe riding bikes by themselves. So, you know, we would travel in groups and even meet up in groups, like from like 3 to 5 people at a time, because they didn't feel safe. One particular guy, he told me, you know, I was mugged, and they didn't get much, you know, but just my wallet. But even in that instance, you know, he didn't even feel safe riding by himself. So.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, have you ever been violently attacked or assaulted in your life?
Yes, I've there was an attempted robbery done on myself before.
Okay. And when was that, Mr. Edgecomb?
It was in 2018, I believe. Yes, 2018.
So roughly 2 years or so before the incident in question?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as a result of what you believe to be, you know, a violent area, did you carry any weapons at any time during the year of 2020?
Yes, I carried a weapon, just, you know, for protection purposes. Never, you know, with any intent to hurt, harm, or endanger anyone, though.
Okay, but Mr. Edgecomb, you're on a bicycle, right? Is that your main source of transportation?
Yes. At
So,
that time, yes.
So, Mr. Edgecomb, so you're telling this jury that you're driving a bicycle, but you feel the need to carry a firearm. Is that correct?
Only, like, I would say it wasn't all the time. Mainly, you know, like at nighttime when, you know, more crimes can be more prevalent. It would mainly just, you know, be at home, you know, in my home just to protect my family and my children, keep it there for protection.
Okay. So you're saying that you would generally carry it at night when you were driving a bike, is that correct?
If I were out, yes, by myself, yes.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, at this time, I want to now direct your attention to September 22nd of 2020. Does anything stand out to you about that particular day?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to just kind of start from, you know, earlier in that day. What was your thought process? What were your intentions? If you could explain to the members of the jury, you know, what plans did you have for September 22nd?
Well, just to go back a little bit, that date in particular, I had all my children with me. I was in sort of a bliss, you know, starting out that day. You know, it was a joyous day. my two youngest children at the time, they were 1 and they were reaching milestones in their lives, as far as like just beginning potty training. So, everyone, my oldest daughter in particular, we would congratulate them. She was helping out. She's a nurturer at heart, and she was helping me with them, as they were reaching these different milestones. They were just beginning to walk. So I had all of them, like it was just a good day, good vibes, good energy. Like I said, I had all my children, and that's the best part of life to me, just being around family, having my children in particular.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you were happy about a particular daughter, correct?
Yes.
What was that daughter's name?
I'm happy about all my children, but that date in particular, I had scheduled a daddy-daughter date night with my oldest daughter, just to catch up with her, just to, continue, just to bond even more. I hadn't spent that much time with her because I had 2 new children at that time, like prevalently new. They were 1 year old, but they needed more attention than the oldest 2, and they understood that. So especially with my oldest daughter in particular, like I said, she's a nurturer. She's like, has this momminess about her, and where she would help me, help us. Even at times, me and her mother, she would, soothe us and comfort us or help us in different times of, if we're, maybe distraught or, if we're, handling adult situations, she would come to us and comfort us, and it would throw us off, like, take us aback a bit, because it's like, she's so young, but she's mature in heart and in her nature about herself.
Okay. Now, just for, the members of the jury, can you tell us the name of the daughter that you were having daddy-daughter date night with?
Yes.
Okay, what is her name?
Excuse me, sorry. Tyler Grace.
Mr. Edgecomb, what did you have planned for Tyler Grace on September 22nd of 2020?
I had daddy-daughter date night scheduled and planned with her, and which I still owe her. Shoot. My apologies. I had I had daddy-daughter date night scheduled with her, in which I just wanted to just connect with her even more, just bond with her, see where she was, see where she was as far as like, if she had any expectations for me, as far as, being her father. Thank you. See, if she had any expectations for me, being her father, and just letting her know, goals and expectations that I wanted for her, as far as her being my princess. And just also showing her my appreciation as far as always listening to me. Listening to me, doing good in school. Helping out her siblings. And this is hard, sorry. Helping out her siblings and just being great overall. Yeah.
So Mr. Edgecomb, I want to, now, what was the specific plan? So you have a daddy-daughter date night. Where were you planning to go? What were you planning to do? If you could explain that to the members of the jury.
The plan at that time was just to get our favorite meal and just for us to, you know, just bond, connect with each other and just watch a movie and, you know, just have one-on-one time instead of everyone, you know, just being collectively. And everyone in the house knew too. You know, we're just gonna be one-on-one time and, you know, for us to just bond with one another.
So what was her favorite meal?
She loved sushi. And Dynamite is a restaurant in which we would frequent. And so, you know, I asked her though in particular, you know, what would she like, you know, for this date? And she told me, hey, you know, could you give me sushi, Dad? Like, sure, princess.
So did you ever, you know, make any effort to go to Dynamite on the evening of September 22nd of 2020?
Yes, I actually did. I went there. I ordered the food for the date night. I actually waited outside the restaurant because during this time, we had, how they had it set up, we had to order from a side door because it was, you know, COVID was going on. We're in the middle of a pandemic, so everyone's outside with their mask on. I paid for the food and I kind of engaged in conversation with some individuals outside the restaurant. There was this one person in particular. In which, you know, everyone kind of sparked the conversation around because during that time, like masks were like everyone like had a normal mask, and this person's mask stood out at that particular time, and so everyone kind of made, you know, conversation and like humorous remarks about it at this time because it had like a face on it, and at that time no one really brandished unique sort of mask at that time because everything was still pretty much new.
Okay. So you mentioned that you placed the order, correct?
Yes.
You remember what you ordered that evening?
Chicken satay. It's chicken on a stick, some sushi for my daughter, and then, if I'm not mistaken, it was like Hawaiian fried rice.
Okay. And did you pay for that order, Mr. Edgecomb?
Yes.
Okay. And you indicated that you were waiting outside, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you do next?
As I was waiting, I'm like, I'll kill some time. I'm gonna head to Frozone and get some frozen yogurt. I had heard about this place, but I'd never been before. A lot of people and online were like making this craze about this frozen yogurt. I hadn't heard about it, or I hadn't had it yet. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna see what this place is about. So I'm gonna head there, try to get some frozen yogurt.
Okay. All right. Now, were you armed on the night of September 22nd, 2020?
Yes.
Okay. And whose firearm were you in possession of on that evening?
Ruby Mizell's.
Okay. Is that your fiance?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what made you decide to carry it on that specific night?
It was nighttime. It was the weekend too, and crimes are more prevalent like on the weekend. You know, it's a lot more people out. Also too, I know during this pandemic, it was a lot of racial tensions, a lot of just tensions, period. And like I mentioned, like the crime rate was relatively high during that time.
Okay. Now, when you carry this firearm, do you normally carry it fully loaded?
Yes.
And how many bullets would you typically have in that firearm when you carry it?
The magazine held 17.
So on the evening of September 22nd of 2020, did you have 17 bullets in that firearm?
Yes.
Now, you mentioned, now I'm gonna mess up this name, I think you called it Froyo or Froyo?
Frozone.
Frozone, okay. Now, what kind of place is Frozone?
I never made it to Frozone. I never had it even still yet.
Okay.
But it's a frozen yogurt place.
So was that what you were intending for dessert with you and your daughter that night?
Yes. It was like a spontaneous, spare of the moment type ordeal. It wasn't even part of the plan. I just thought of it as I was waiting, as I was waiting, I'm like, I'd try this place. I heard about it, but yeah, it was just a spontaneous thought.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, is there a reason why you didn't make it to Frozone on September 22nd of 2020?
Yes, I just aborted the mission altogether as far as going there because I'm like, I didn't know what I was up against. Like if there were containers in which the frozen yogurt came in, if it was big, if it was small, and I knew what I was up against as far as purchasing the dynamite. I knew what kind of containers, that consisted of, and I knew how much, I would be able to carry as far as with that. But I just aborted the mission altogether because I'm like, I'm not going to be able to carry this plus the dynamite as well. So I just aborted that altogether.
Okay. And what happened next?
As I'm traveling eastbound on Brady, the traffic, it died down at this moment. I'm on the south side of Brady at this point. So as I abort the mission, cross over to the north side of Brady, and I'm headed westbound at this point.
Okay. And what happens at this point? Now you're going, is it eastbound on Brady?
I'm actually headed west now at this point because I aborted the mission. I'm headed westbound because I aborted the mission as far as just going to grab the frozen yogurt.
Okay.
So I diverted from that plan altogether.
Okay. So now you're going westbound on Brady Street, correct?
Yes.
And if you could tell the members of the jury what happens next.
So I'm traveling westbound on Brady, and I go maybe I say about 5 feet, and all of a sudden I hear this horn blowing, and I see this car heading towards me, and I'm thinking that it's this, the vehicle that's headed towards me, that's blowing that horn at me. So I'm thrown off because I brace for impact, seeing this car headed towards me. So as I brace for impact, I'm learning that it isn't the car that's headed towards me that's blowing their horn loudly. It's them, it's the car that it was headed east, and this vehicle almost had a head-on collision with them. So as that vehicle swerves out from having a head-on collision, it's headed towards me, and it's traveling westbound on Brady, but it's in the eastbound lane, and it swerves over from having a head-on collision, and they're headed towards me. So I brace for impact. As I brace for impact, the vehicle just clips me, hits my pedal, hits my leg, and then also hits the handlebar, knocks me onto a parked car. As that, thinking about that as that happens, I've been hit before. A few years back in Florida, I was left in the middle of the street. My bike was mangled, severely injured. The police never never found out who the person was who did it, and they never found the vehicle. So all that resonated with me. And as I was hit, a gentleman yelled out the window, excuse my language, he says the N-word and, you know, get the F out of the street. He says it boisterously and boldly, you know, and in such insulting way that I couldn't fathom why this was, you know, why this was even said to me. So when that was done, he says, you know, he says, as he says,
You can say what he said, Mr. Edgecomb.
damn nigga, you can't drive, get the fuck out of the road. And there was an individual on the sidewalk who heard this and seen me get hit. And they're like, whoa, you know, the nerve of that guy. And they asked me if I was okay. I said, yeah, I'm all right. Who's he speaking to? Why is he talking like that? I guess he's talking to me.
Mr. Edgecomb, how did that make you feel?
I was infuriated. I can't lie. It brought back the trauma of when I was hit before. And that's all I could think about because I was left hurt in the middle of the street before. And I'm like, what if these individuals would have just, I could have been killed. You know, what if these individuals would have just killed me then? Then they insulted me. So it was like they had no remorse for what they had just done. Add an insult on top of, you know, injury, and I didn't understand it. In my mind, I'm like, maybe these people are drunk, you know, or something, and, you know, that's the only reason I could think of a person throwing out an insult. And at that time, I didn't, you know, I was just trying to put it together as far as like, you know, why would someone do that, or why would they, you know, be that bold in taking those actions?
So you're infuriated, correct, Mr. Edgecomb?
Yes.
And what did you do next?
I proceeded west on Brady. I proceeded towards them. You know, like I said before, the vehicle that hit me years prior to this date, to that date in particular, that trauma resonated with me. So I'm like, I can't let them get away. I'm able to, you know, catch up to this individual at this point in time. And plus, I couldn't make out the vehicle directly because as they were headed towards me, all I seen was their headlights. So it was like blinding me, and I just braced for impact. So upon them, like I said, I wasn't able to see the vehicle directly until they were headed off, and he yelled out the window, and because I was bracing for impact.
Okay. And you mentioned that you tried to catch up with the vehicle, correct?
Yes.
Did you ever catch up with that vehicle on that evening?
Yes.
And what did you do once you caught up with that vehicle?
When I came up to the passenger window, I actually was, you know, riding kind of fast, and you know, as I gathered myself, riding pretty fast, you know, headed to them. Came up to the passenger window and just asked him, hey, you know, were you guys talking to me? And he said, yes, nigga, and I punched him.
At this time, I want to now show what has been marked as State 35.
Sit on.
Evidence control.
You can go ahead and play, Counsel.
Play from the beginning, Your Honor.
Okay, I want to stop right here, please, before we get going on it. Now, Mr. Edgecomb, do you recognize this to be the Brady area which you were on September 22nd of 2020?
Yes.
Okay. Counsel, you can play, please. I want to stop right here, please, counsel. Mr. Edgecomb, do you recognize this vehicle?
Yes.
What do you recognize that vehicle to be?
The vehicle that hit me and that also chased me down.
Okay. All right, Mr. Attorney Ahmad, if you continue, please.
We're resuming at 104.
I want to stop right here, please.
Stop at 116.
Do you recognize this individual right here, Mr. Edgecomb?
It's not that clear to me.
Okay. Let's play it a little bit closer. Go a couple more seconds. Okay, stop right there. Mr. Edgecomb, do you recognize this person now?
Yes.
And who is that?
It is me.
Okay. Continue, please.
Playing at 120.
You stop right here, please. Now, is this at the point where you indicated there was a conversation between you and the individuals in this vehicle?
Yes. As I approached him, he appeared flushed red in his face, and it kind of confirmed, like, you know, what I was thinking, like, yeah, this guy has to be intoxicated, you know, as far as his boisterous tone, their demeanor, and then they didn't even have any remorse for hitting me at that point. You know, he insulted me again, you know, called me a nigger again, and so.
Now, let's continue at this point, counsel.
Where are we playing, counsel? Make a record, please.
That was at 125 we began. And now it's at 127. Let's go back a couple seconds. Playing at 125.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to stop right there.
Stopping at 129.
So, is that the punch that you just described that you rendered on the individual in this vehicle?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, what are you doing now?
I'm getting away from the situation altogether. I don't want any more to do with this. I'm focused on getting back home to continue on my daddy-daughter date night, get back home to my children safely.
All right. And if you continue, counsel.
Playing at 129.
And I want to stop right there.
Stopping at 133.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, did you observe any actions by any individuals in that vehicle?
Yes. Upon my approach, at that particular time in the video, I heard the door open. I looked back, and during this time, you know, I'm like, oh, this guy's trying to get out and get me or something. He's trying to give chase. So that's, you know, what made me even, you know, get away from them altogether even more.
Okay. You continue playing. And for the record, I think that concludes any relevant acts on this particular exhibit.
We stopped at 145.
Fine.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, now you said that you were riding off at this point, right?
Yes.
All right, and you indicated your state of mind at this point, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what were you thinking at the time that you left at this time?
I just wanted to be done with this altercation altogether, be done with it. I had no more business with them, like no business at all with them. And I just was focused at this point just to, you know, get away safely, make it back home safely. I didn't even want to be in that altercation. I was focusing on my daddy-daughter date night. I just wanted to get back home to my children.
Well, Mr. Edgecomb, you punched the guy, didn't you?
Yes, I take responsibility for that. If I would have known then what I know now, I wouldn't have punched the guy. I would have just accepted being hit and called a nigger and just not even approached him.
So, where are you going at this time now, Mr. Edgecomb?
At this time, I'm on the Holden Street Bridge and I'm on the incline, headed up the bridge. The bridge is an incline, so I'm headed up the bridge at this point.
Okay. At this time, I want to now show what has been marked as Defense 25. All right, we're now showing what has been marked as Defense 25, the clarified Zoom sequence video. Now, Mr. Edgecomb, at this time, do you recognize the individual that's behind the Reinhardt vehicle?
Yes,
Who do you recognize that individual to be?
it's me.
Okay. Now, what intersection are you approaching at this point?
That's Holden and Brady.
Okay. Counsel, you can continue.
We got 2 seconds, but, oh, actually, we'll go by the timestamp, Your Honor. In the bottom right, it shows 0.0.
And what exhibit is it again?
This is exhibit D25.
Fine.
Okay. You recognize this individual to be you, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, I want to stop right here.
Stopping at 3.37.
Now, you just took a right turn, correct?
Yes.
Is there a reason why you changed direction at this point?
I wanted to evade the situation altogether. Plus, I knew I had food that I was waiting on, so I would just go around the block and, come back up to the restaurant. But I was getting away from this situation in which I just ensued. And plus, I heard the door open, as I look back. So, I'm like, I hope, I'm in my mind, I'm like, I hope this guy isn't getting out to try to get me or something.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, on this video, are you standing up on the bike at this point?
Yes.
And can you explain to the members of the jury why are you standing up on the bike?
On that bridge, there's an incline. So, just to give myself a little bit more power. And plus, I'm trying to get away. I'm trying to get away from this situation, get away from them. These individuals in whom just had hit me. And, we had an altercation in which they had no remorse for. So I just wanted to, just get away as quick as I can from these individuals.
Okay. Counsel, if you continue.
Claim where we left out, 3.37.
I want to stop right here. Now, Mr. Edgecomb, I see, where are you located at on this part of the road at this time?
At the bottom of the hill in the bike lane.
Do you normally travel in a bike lane, Mr. Edgecomb?
Yes.
If you could press continue going forward.
Playing at 4.458.
I want to stop right here. Now, do you recognize that vehicle that just turned the corner, Mr. Edgecomb?
Yes.
At the time, what did you recognize this vehicle to be?
The vehicle that had hit me previously and that I pulled up to the passenger side of.
All right. And did you observe anything prior to this vehicle making a right turn?
Yes. The loud roaring of their motor, tires screeching. All I could hear was vroom, like these individuals were chasing me down. They were trying to hit me. I knew this deliberately now at this point. I became, fear, came over me, as I heard that. Ahmaud Arbery resonated in my mind because I'm like, these people are hunting me down now at this point. Now they're becoming more bold with what they're trying to do to me. So as far as like hunting me down, and even if, like I said, they didn't show any remorse then for hitting me, now I know, even if they didn't know that they had hit me, now I know that they're deliberately and intently trying to hit me now.
Counsel, if you could continue playing the video at this point.
Judge, just for the record, the timestamp is no longer viewable in this Zoom sequence, so I'm going to refer to the player then, which shows 16 seconds.
Fine.
Playing at 16.
I want to stop right there. Now, Mr. Edgecomb, you just told the jury you were in a bike lane, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, are you in a bike lane at this specific frame of the video?
No.
Can you explain to the members of the jury why did you go from being in a bike lane to now being on what appears to be a sidewalk at this point?
I did that because I was escaping from being hit. As I got on the sidewalk, I was fearful, in fear of my life. I knew that these individuals were not, that they were deliberately trying to hit me. I accept responsibility, for punching Mr. Cleereman. I was infuriated for that. Shouldn't have happened. As they were chasing me down, though, I became in fear of my life. I never felt that, amount of fear ever. And so I just wanted to just get away from them altogether. Just proceeding to some way, somehow, just get away from them.
So, Mr. Edgecomb, at this particular part of the video, you're saying you're trying to get away, correct?
Yes.
What options are you considering at this very moment?
At that very moment, my options were pretty much limited. I'm just focusing on, just getting away. Not really thinking too much, but, just seeing as to where I can go, seeing, how I can get away from these individuals. As I get on the curb, the reason I got on the curb is because I seen them heading towards me. And I'm thinking if I get on the sidewalk, they'll at least tear up their vehicle before they hit me. So that was my reasoning as to, jumping on the sidewalk in that instant, because they were headed directly towards me. They were so close, in fact, that I could feel the heat of the engine on my backside. And I just knew, I knew I was gonna be killed. That was what was resonating in me. I was in fear, I was in shock, so I'm still just trying to get away from them.
Counsel, if you can play the video starting at this point.
Starting at 19 seconds.
I want to stop right there. Now, it's a little bit grainy here. We can go back a couple seconds.
It stopped at 24. I'm going back to.
Okay, right there is pretty good. So, Mr. Edgecomb, at the time that this frame is in the video, what did you observe? What were you aware of? What was your state of mind at this time?
The whole time I was in fear. I see the opening, open landing. I'm like, I gotta get down this stair. I gotta get down these stairs and, you know, get away from these individuals. And as I see the landing and opening, I'm like, I don't think that they'll drive up on this sidewalk and driving here. You know, they can't be that bold. I know for sure, like, they're gonna tear up their vehicle trying to get to me. So I was, you know, in the mind frame of just trying to get away from them altogether.
Now, at this time, are you aware that there's somebody behind you at this point?
At that particular time, no.
Now, if we could continue playing at this point. All right, stop right there, please.
Stopping at 25 seconds.
So, what did we just see, Mr. Edgecomb?
Objection, Your Honor. As to what he saw, fine, but asking him to see what we saw in the video.
No, okay.
What did he see or what did he observe is fine.
That's fine.
What did you see or observe, Mr. Edgecomb?
I heard someone yelling out at this point, "I'm gonna kill you, nigger. I'm gonna kill you, nigger."
Now, just to be clear, at this point, you have now turned right into a particular area, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, what options were you considering after you took that right into this area? Can you describe that area that you turned into?
Yes, it was a landing stairwell. I was considering jumping over the banister. When I looked over, it was too far of a jump. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna make that. My first option though was to go down the stairwell with my bike to just get away from him altogether. As I'm hearing, "I'm gonna kill you, nigger, I'm gonna kill you, nigger," I can't make it down the stairwell in time because I hear the voice getting louder and louder. So I'm like, where is this coming from? And I'm like, I didn't want to turn my back, to a threat either, because I knew that these individuals had just tried to hit me. So I'm hearing this voice, getting louder and louder, as I get off my bike and before I proceed to go down the stairwell.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, can you describe the size of this stairwell? Is it a big stairwell? Is it small? How many feet would you estimate this stairwell to be that you're currently in at this moment?
It's a small box, probably, I don't think two people could fit in that stairwell. Like, it's, in feet, I would say like, maybe like 4 or 5 feet, like across.
Would you consider it comparable to the witness box that you're in right now?
Yes, that's a pretty accurate, almost, yeah, it's a pretty accurate measure. It's almost precise.
So, you're in this box, you're in the stairwell at this time, and you stated that you're hearing something now. You're in the stairwell now, you're hearing something, correct?
Yes.
Okay, what are you hearing?
"I'm gonna kill you, nigger. I'm gonna kill you, nigger."
Can we continue playing the video at this point?
Playing at 25 seconds.
Stop, please.
I'm stopping at 29.
Now, you indicated that a voice got louder and louder, is that right?
Yes, it was louder, it was boisterous. It seemed like it was coming closer and closer.
Okay. Now, I know it's a bit grainy at this frame, but did you hear anything coming from this vehicle that is parked with their flashes on at this point?
I seen the vehicle pull up, and as I seen them pull up, I looked at the vehicle, and I didn't see, as the vehicle pulled up, it was probably like a split second. The gentleman came around the corner, and he met me right head on, so he startled me, and I thought he was in the vehicle. I didn't even know that he was, chasing me, or yeah, he was chasing me at this point.
Okay. And you said that you appeared startled, correct?
Yes.
And how did you react to being startled by the gentleman that was approaching you at this point?
Upon him startling me and coming around that corner, I put my hand up and I told him, "Hey, stop, don't come closer." He told me, "I'm gonna kill you now, nigga." And upon him doing that, I heard Miss Cleereman yell out, he's got a gun. And yeah.
So just to be clear, at the time that you put your hand out saying, "Stop, don't come any closer," did you have a weapon brandished at this point?
Yes, I had my firearm out. It was at waist level.
Okay.
I didn't have it like up. I just had it, down. It was drawn, but it wasn't like pointed.
Okay, can you describe what you mean at waist level? I mean, as you sit there.
Yes, it was just down in my side. I had just drawn it. I had just taken it out of a holster, and it was just still at my waist.
Okay. Now, at any time, did you ever take this firearm and extend your whole arm toward the individual that was coming across to you?
No. In fact, I kept it at waist level. I just kept it at waist level.
And what was your intent? You're brandishing a firearm at a gentleman that's coming towards you. What was your intent at this time?
I didn't have any intent. This gentleman actually took one large step and lunged toward me like he was gonna tackle me. And I took a step back. And as I stepped back, it was the reaction from that, the firearm just went off. And with him lunging towards me, I didn't know if he was going after the firearm, if he was coming after me or what, but I know from his words and his actions, his boisterous tone, he told me, "I'm gonna kill you now." So with that, I didn't have no reason to doubt this man. His actions, his demeanor, his tone, with them just previously hitting me, with the second incident upon me, punching him, he told me, he didn't have any remorse for hitting me the first time.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, did you ever notice the gentleman getting any type of stance or position at the time he faced you in that stairwell?
Yes. As he was in the stance, before he got in the stance, I observed two other possible threats. It was a vehicle that came up behind them. I'm thinking that these individuals were with them, that they were all trailing each other in caravan style, that these individuals were with them. So I could hear, noise. I could hear him, I heard him yelling, but I could also hear other noise behind them. So I'm thinking, all these individuals are together. They're possibly going to get out the car, either shoot me, also join them, and trying to attack me, cause harm or danger to me as well.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, is the vehicle that we see in this frame, is this the second vehicle that you believed or perceived was a threat that you just testified to?
Yes.
All right. And you didn't observe anybody get out that vehicle at any point, correct?
I was fixated on direct threat that was in front of me because I just perceived them at this point to be threats. The direct threat was right in front of me, and he he raised his hands, drawn up from his midsection, so it appeared that he had an object in his hand. And at this point, I couldn't tell what the object was because I wasn't fixated on it. I was assessing, different things at this time. 2 possible threats from the vehicle, one that was in front of me in which I, first, tried to escape forward into, and yeah, and this other threat that was behind that vehicle, possibly in that car.
So, Mr. Edgecomb, you're testifying that you perceived something to be in the gentleman's hand as he was in a boxer stance. Is that your testimony?
Yes.
And you're saying that you couldn't tell what that object was?
No, I couldn't at all. And as he was in the stance, he lunged right towards me, so I couldn't make it out what it was or what it could possibly be at that point. It all happened so quickly. And like I said, I was observing the other possible threats too that were in the vicinity. He was just a direct, imminent threat. The other 2, I was, going back and forth, so I couldn't just fixate on what the object was. As he was in the stance, you could see him holding something, but I couldn't see exactly what it was. He just took his lunge and...
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, what would you say the time frame was from the time that you see the gentleman get into a boxer stance with what you perceive to be an object to the time frame when he's lunging at you? How long did that take?
It was less than a half a second. It was just all instant. Even upon when he came around the corner and seeing the vehicle in front of me, it's like they all met. It was like I was met with all of this at the same time because as the vehicle pulled up, I thought he was in the vehicle. So once I seen him outside the vehicle, I didn't even know he got out the vehicle.
The video play at this point, please.
Playing at 29 seconds.
I want to stop right here. Mr. Edgecomb, is this where the gentleman got in the boxer stance? Was this the general vicinity of what you described?
Yes, that's also where he, took the lunge at me like he was going to tackle me or go for my weapon at this point.
And you indicated in your testimony that there was a big step that he took, correct? Is this the big step that you're talking about in this frame right here?
Yes.
Where was your gun at this particular time?
I still had it at waist level drawn, and when he did take that large step towards me, it was just a reaction, and the gun just went off, and his head was perceived like in the downward, like he was gonna tackle me or spear me, or like I said, even going for the weapon. But it seemed as though either he wanted to harm me he wanted to cause harm or go for my weapon at that point.
Now, counsel, if you could play the video from this point.
Playing at 32 seconds.
Go ahead and continue. Stop right there. Is that the lunge that you're described to the members of the jury?
Yes, as that was done though, I took a step back, and that's when the gun went off.
Now, at this point, continue playing at this point.
Playing at 41 seconds.
Okay, stop right there. Now, did we just see you kind of take a step back and kind of back up?
Yes.
Okay. Continue playing at this point, please.
Playing at 47 seconds.
All right. We could stop here.
Stopping at 101.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, immediately after this, altercation that you just had in this stairwell, how did you feel after this gunshot went off?
I was in shock. I couldn't believe it. Immediately, right, during that shock, I still, I look back, I assessed the other threats too, because I, had, just known, first it was this vehicle that was trying to hit me, so I didn't know, like, if the individual in this vehicle, would shoot out at me from the vehicle, if they had gotten out, or if the other people were actually behind Mr. Cleereman at this point, and if they were coming towards me. So, but yeah, I was just in total shock.
What did you do next?
Next, I assessed, to see if I could get down the stairwell safely, and I was able to, because the imminent threat was, there was no direct imminent threat anymore, and the other threats that I perceived to be like they weren't coming directly at me, so I knew then, I can get away safely, make it back home to my children.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, you didn't stay on the scene, though. You grabbed the bike, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And your testimony is that you ran down the stairs at this point?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, did you feel like your actions were justified in this instance?
In that instant, I was in total shock. I was just in total shock at, everything that had just taken place.
Do you feel like you were defending yourself at this moment?
Yes. I definitely was defending myself from being harmed. I was just previously harmed. I was hit off my bike, chased down. So, at this, individual lunging towards me.
Well, Mr. Edgecomb, if you felt like you were defending yourself, why did you feel the need to run at this point?
Oh, I had, a white man had just been shot, and I was just getting, chased down by them. I was still just, in shock. I couldn't believe the whole situation altogether. I ran because I didn't think anyone would believe, anything in as far as what had just taken place. And plus, I still was in fear, so I just wanted to get away from the dangers altogether. I didn't know if there were, if, like I said, these individuals were still chasing after me or gonna still be chasing after me.
Okay, so at some point or another on September 22nd, where did you go immediately after this incident?
Right after this incident, I headed back home, which where I was staying at the time, on Dowsman. Yeah.
And did you feel safe when you made it home?
I didn't. I was still fearful. I left there. I was frightened. I kissed my children. Everyone was kind of, puzzled, by my actions, because, it was, hey, where's the food, daddy-daughter date night? I just gathered a few things and left. My mindset at this point, I gotta, get away, and, figure out this whole thing that just had transpired. And in doing so, I didn't want to put my family in any harm or danger. And I knew at this point, like, I would be in some in danger or, you know, in some kind of trouble. I didn't think anyone would believe this situation. As far as me explaining it to them, I didn't think anyone would believe it if I told it to them.
Well, Mr. Edgecomb, the next day, did you turn yourself in, Mr. Edgecomb, or go to the police and explain what happened?
No,
A week from that point, did you go to the police station and explain what happened?
no,
Over a 6-month period of time, Mr. Edgecomb, did you ever go to the police and explain what happened?
no. But I did make strides as far as seeking legal representation. I was also in fear, even after.
Hang on. Let your attorney ask the questions, please. Go ahead, counsel.
So, Mr. Edgecomb, you just explained to the members of the jury for over 6 months, you felt like you acted in defense, and you're telling them that you were scared. Explain to them, you know, what you were scared of over this period of time.
Not getting a fair, not having, not being heard fairly, you know, getting fair proceedings on my behalf, not being heard straight out, no one understanding, you know, what had transpired. Who would believe from what I gathered over the days that were passing, like this, you know, this was an attorney, a prominent attorney. I didn't even know that he had died until days later.
Now, days later, what did you hear about this incident? Did you, as far as the way that the case was put out in the media and information that you kind of learned over time?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, you indicated that you didn't know that he was even an attorney until a couple days later, correct?
Yes.
All right. What other information did you learn about this situation or about how you were being perceived as immediately following this incident?
I had also learned that law enforcement had put out that I was the Brady Street killer. Not anything, you know, speculated about, but that from any particular like citizen or something. It was law enforcement that put out that I was the Brady Street killer.
Did that make you more fearful of turning yourself into law enforcement based off of learning that?
Yes. Even with the injustices that's, you know, that's going on and that go on in society. Even, you know, with being here, you know, in Wisconsin, which, you know, has a largely black mass incarceration rate, I didn't feel like I would be heard out as far as, you know, my side, as far as what had taken place on that date in September 22nd.
Now, is it true, Mr. Edgecomb, that at some point over the course of these 6 months that you actually went outside of state lines? Isn't that right?
Yes, that is true.
Why would you feel it necessary to go outside of the state of Wisconsin?
I had to get away from the state altogether. Also, too, I, you know, just needed to get in contact with other relatives and whom could help me. I didn't, you know, want to talk over the phone, so I felt, you know, I could, you know, possibly meet up with them in person to, you know, seek or get some kind of legal representation or finances to help me to get legal representation.
Okay, so let's go here. Where did you go? You know, you went out of state. Tell the members of the jury where you went.
I went to Georgia.
And what's in Georgia?
My father.
And at the time, did you feel like your father could offer up or potentially offer up some resources to help you retain legal counsel at this time?
Yes, but I never was able to meet up with them. So, yeah.
Did you go to any other family members out of state?
I contacted them, but I never was able to, meet up with them at all.
And have you had any communications with anyone locally in Milwaukee to try to get legal representation on your behalf?
Yes. It was like over a course of maybe every other day, I would contact my fiance, Ruby Mizell, and she would, just try to get and seek out legal counsel for me.
And did you or Ms. Mizell ever get in contact with legal counsel on your behalf?
Yes.
And what were you told from legal counsel upon getting in contact with them?
I was quoted different prices, ranging from $50,000 to $140,000, as far as these individuals and them, as far as them representing me.
Mr. Edgecomb, did you have the resources to pay $50,000 to $140,000 to get legal counsel at the time?
No, that was my reasoning, for contacting other family members and, going out of state and possibly meeting up with them, because I, knew I don't think no one would understand from my point of view, would understand over the phone. I felt like I needed to be in front of these individuals in order for them to understand the purposes and why I needed, this financial help. And plus, I had a GoFundMe prior to that, a couple GoFundMes that were set up. They were taken down due to, it says that they don't take care of criminal defense matters anymore. Everyone's monies were refunded to them, but that also became a setback for me, and it, increased the time span in which I was able to turn myself in.
Okay. If I'm understanding you correctly, Mr. Edgecomb, you're saying that there was a GoFundMe account set up for you at some point?
Yes, there were a couple attempts to have a GoFundMe set up in which I could get financial assistance to help with my defense.
And at some specific time, there was, substantial amount of donors that actually donated to your defense through GoFundMe, correct?
Yes, that is correct. All their monies, though, were refunded.
And was that a setback for you, Mr. Edgecomb?
A huge setback, because I wasn't in direct, I didn't feel safe contacting these individuals, or being around anyone, because I didn't want to put them in harm. As myself, I knew that I would, I was in harm's way because of the narrative that was placed out there as being a Brady Street killer by the police. So I'm thinking, upon, being pursued either by a regular citizen or law enforcement, I would be killed.
Mr. Edgecomb, at some point, did you ever change your appearance in any way to avoid being caught by law enforcement based off of these fears?
Yes.
Why did you do that?
I wanted to change how I looked just so I could, I guess you can say, buy me some time before. I didn't want to be noticed. So, during that, I just wanted to, depict and looking differently because, I didn't want to be killed ultimately. So I wanted to, appear differently and, get my legal representation and then turn myself in voluntarily. I know if I had a notion and an idea, just upon seeing on social media and different news websites, upon seeing this guy, we're gonna kill him, from regular citizens. And then, like I said, even the police department put out that I was the Brady Street killer.
Relevance, and that's been asked.
Irrelevant, sustained.
Now, Mr. Edgecomb, you end up getting taken into custody in Kentucky at some point, correct?
Yes, that's true.
Where were you coming from when you were caught in Kentucky?
I was coming from Georgia. I was headed back to Wisconsin.
Now, do you recall those officers asking for your ID at the time that you were pulled over in Kentucky?
Yes.
And what did you tell them when they asked you for your ID?
I told them that I didn't have one.
Mr. Edgecomb, were you truthful when you told the police department in Kentucky that you didn't have an ID on you?
No, I wasn't honest in that.
The Kentucky Police Department also asked you what was your name, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Did you give them the name Theodore Edgecomb?
No.
What name did you give them?
I told them that my name was Agu Newman.
Mr. Edgecomb, why did you do that?
It was like a last effort in order to, stay out of their custody. I feared them. I didn't want to be taken into custody involuntarily. My family didn't know where I was. I could possibly be killed in their custody, like Miss Sandra Bland was. So I didn't feel safe with them taking me in involuntarily, and plus I didn't have legal representation yet.
Mr. Edgecomb, when you were taken into custody, did you have a gun on you? Did you have that same firearm that you used on September 22nd?
No.
What did you do with the gun that you used on September 22nd of 2020?
As I was headed to Georgia, in between Indiana and Illinois, I threw the gun out the window. I didn't want to be caught with it and, give anyone, police or a regular citizen, any reasoning as to, killing me and saying that I was armed. And it, it being justified in that instant. I didn't want to give reason, as to, being opposed as a threat.
Mr. Edgecomb, do you recall the Milwaukee Police Department ever coming down to Kentucky to try to extradite you back to Wisconsin?
I remember them coming down to talk to me.
And do you recall the Milwaukee Police Department asking you about what happened in Milwaukee? And you replied to the Milwaukee Police Department what happened in Milwaukee. Did you make that statement?
Yes.
Why did you make that statement?
I didn't want to expound, and plus on, any situation that happened, and plus I didn't have legal representation with me at the time.
Mr. Edgecomb, how do you feel about what took place on September 22nd? How do you feel about, this tragedy that took place?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance as to his later feelings about what happened?
Sustained. And counsel, I'm not cutting you off, but it's noon. I'm getting the feeling this is close to being done with direct. Is that correct, counsel?
Upon consultation, I'll withdraw my objection to that question. That's fine.
If you could tell the members of the jury about how do you feel about, what transpired, that tragedy that occurred on September 22nd of 2020?
I never intended to hurt or harm or endanger anyone upon that date. It was a tragedy. I just, wish I wish it never transpired. I wish none of the events that occurred in that date transpired. I wish I would have just accepted being called a nigger when picked up the food, and just went back home, and I would have just dealt with it from there.
No more questions for Mr. Edgecomb.
It's almost exactly noon. I'm inclined to put this over cross till after lunch. It's going to be a short lunch, ladies and gentlemen. We're coming back at 1 o'clock. I will start no later than 1:15. The jury can go out. You know the rules. Don't discuss this case. Don't deliberate. Don't do any research. Don't follow any media accounts. You'll be back, please, at 1 or a little after, and we'll start at 1:15. Follow my bailiff out. Everybody else can remain seated, please. All right, the jury's out. It's noon. We're going to take a 1 hour or slightly more than 1 hour break for lunch. The state can do their cross-examination after lunch. I want everybody back promptly at 1:15 so we can get started this afternoon. I still expect testimony to be completed this afternoon. We're in recess.